Hello, and welcome to a special interview with the Member of Parliament from Manhyia South, who's authored an interesting article on the work of the Constitutional Review Committee. We'll also be engaging his thoughts on, the legal year in review, oral, promised big by the government, hasn't been able to be delivered. All that and more on today's interview with the Member of Parliament from Manhyia South, Nana Agyei Baffour Awuah. Council, Honorable, what do you respond to the most? Transitioning from the courtroom to...
No, I've not transitioned. I'm still practicing.
Really?
I'm still in active practice.
Wow.
I mean, you met me in my private office. I've the certificate of the speaker to practice. So I'm in active practice.
How are you able to juggle the time? Because we see a lot of the advocacy and the work you do in Parliament. And to take that, you're still in active practice. How are you able to make it all...
Except that
work?
Now, I spend more hours in my office. So when I'm done, I come to the office very early, unless there's some committee work, and then do whatever I have to do, and then move to Parliament. And when I'm done, I go and rest, and also work during the weekends sometimes. So it's just time management.
Interesting. It's a new year, but you are already up and running. You've accused or you've raised issues around the work of the Constitutional Review Committee with regards to claims around seeking to, amend entrenched provisions, particularly 290. And you say that they are doing that without any empirical evidence. What are the basis for such claims?
Thank you very much. Already, my viewpoint on what should necessitate a constitutional review is out there. My view is that it should have been occasioned by a major development, which would have to be resolved by way of an amendment. And so that viewpoint is not new. That viewpoint is what took me to the proposal to amend Article 290 of the Constitution. That is Chapter 25 of the Constitution. For the purposes of our viewers, Chapter 25 contains the segmentation of the provisions of the Constitution into entrenched and then non-entrenched, for which reason our Constitution is said to be both rigid and flexible. Rigid and flexible to the extent that there are portions of it that requires a gamut of procedures, including referendum to amend. And there are others that would require two-thirds majority of Parliament. And so it is easy to amend part, it's not easy to amend part.
Yeah.
The question would be, why would you want to touch it? Why would you want to touch it? Some of us take the view that it is because of the way it is structured that our constitution or our democracy has survived till date. Because, for instance, the foundational precedent of the 1992 Constitution, President Rawlings, prior to that had been in office, you can call it terminally, until the 1992 Constitution came into being as a military leader. President Rawlings never considered going beyond the two terms because there's term limit. When you look at a place like Ivory Coast, because it was changed, because there's no term limit, then there was chaos. If you look at Côte d'Ivoire, it's the same. If you look at Benin, recently there has been a coup d'etat or attempted coup d'etat because there was an attempt to extend the presidential term from 5 years to 7 years. So the evidence available, the empirical evidence available, is that what exists in our Constitution is a major safeguard that has sustained our democracy.
What do you have to say to criticisms, that the 1992 Constitution hasn't been able to deliver on its, expectations, especially in terms of development? And I say this in reference to a lot of the Afrobarometer service we see, where consistently faith in democratic institutions, the police, even the military, used to be high. Now we see in recent times it's coming down. The Electoral Commission. So there's that general indifference or a lack of belief in democratic institutions?
That is not the fault of that is not the fault of Article 290. And so we need to identify which part of the Constitution has resulted in that shortfall and address it. I've given you an example of, I've made public the example, for instance, of the United Kingdom, which practices an unwritten, or which operates an unwritten constitution. Not long ago, they had in place a few system of the House of Lords and their second chamber of Parliament, the Judicial, the Supreme Court, and the second chamber of Parliament, which is called the House of Lords. You know, they have now passed the Constitutional Reform Act, which has brought into being the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom, right? And so when you identify a problem, you amend a portion of the Constitution to respond to the problem, and not a wholesale amendment. And so if you think that the Constitution is failing to deliver development, how do we address that? The Constitutional Review Committee, I commend them for the initiative on strengthening what the Professor Fiajo Commission started in terms of having a stronger National Development Planning Commission, making sure that proposed legislations or bills that come to Parliament would now have the overriding objective of highlighting which part of the National Development Committee plan that it aligns with. That is brilliant. And that would make sure that it develops the necessary development. So I commend them on that. But aspects of it, like the one I've written the article on, and the potential extension or proposed extension by a year of the presidential term by a year, I think that those should be looked at carefully.
Two more quick questions on the H. Kwesi Prempeh Committee, particularly proposed amendment of Article 290, then we move to other things. You have described it as a Trojan horse. You know, what aspects of the proposal do you find most problematic?
The proposed proposed amendment of Article 290 is what I've described as a Trojan horse. I've described it as a Trojan horse because before us is a proposal to amend Article 66 Clause 1 from 4 years, the term of office from 4 years to 5 years. Now, if you look at the proposed amendment of Article 290, it will render Article 66 Clause 1, which is currently an entrenched provision in our Constitution, a non-entrenched provision.
Not even a semi-entrenched?
Not even a semi-entrenched provision. It is not. Because when you look at the proposed semi-entrenched provision, in listing the provisions of the Constitution that are being proposed to form part of the semi-entrenched, the committee's report says that the entire Chapter 8, apart from, other than, right, except Articles 57 Clause 1, Article 58, and Article 66, clearly by the wording there, they don't propose to make the entirety of Article 66 a semi-entrenched. The effect of it will be that Article 66 Clause 1, that is Clause 1 of Article 66, which is a subset or a sub-provision of Article 66, it's not a semi-entrenched. And so when you come to the conclusion of that page or of that proposal, that is, I think, page 126 or 125 of the proposal, it will tell you that all the remaining provisions not listed as entrenched or semi-entrenched will be non-entrenched. What does it mean? So if 66(1) is not listed as part of entrenched and it's not listed as part of semi-entrenched, clearly it's non-entrenched. So if the proposal to amend the term in express terms from 4 years to 5 years does not work, then in the future, a government may then decide if it has 2/3 majority, more than 2/3 or 2/3 majority in Parliament, to also amend it, making it very vulnerable. That is why I call it a Trojan horse. It's a Trojan horse because already there's a proposal on the table to amend Article 66 clause 1.
Yeah.
There's a proposal on the table to amend it. And then whilst there's a proposal on the table to amend it, you are also demoting it from entrenched to non-entrenched. What does it mean?
Interesting. Interesting viewpoints on the work of the CRC. Let's move on to some other issues. It was a busy legal year for government. You know, of course, a new government will come into office 7 January. Before that, we saw the formation of what would later be described as a committee set up to recover loot. 1 year down the line, you know, Ghanaians are still asking very important questions. You know, we've seen government consistently also give updates with regards to various cases at the court. What will be your assessment of government's flagship, you can say, you know, promise on recovering stolen and looted funds mainly from persons within your party?
My initial remark in respect of it would be to say that when you hold public office, you should be ready for accountability. Even these days, pastors are being called upon to account. Pastors who are supposed to be doing the work of God, they are being called upon by their church members to account. Even in the house of God, where the mercies of God abound and the grace of God is extensive. How much more in the public space? You should be ready to account. And so, in my humble view, accountability is necessary. We should demand accountability from everybody, right? How come those of us at the top, we are afraid of accountability, but those below, we demand accountability of them? If I fail to pay my taxes, is the taxman not sent after me?
Yeah.
Is that not accountability? And so if I'm giving you my tax to hold in trust and perform public duties, shouldn't I also demand accountability from you? I should demand accountability from you. However, I think that the Attorney General started failing the very day he filed the nolle prosequi in respect of members of the NDC who were standing trial prior to the government taking office.
So Dr. Dufour and the likes.
Yes, the government started failing because there's no discrimination in terms of public funds. There's no discrimination in terms of public funds as to, you know, there's nothing like MPP money. There's not like NDC money.
State funds.
State funds. And so if you decide to let one go and prosecute the other, simply because the person you let go belongs to the same political party, then of course from that very day.
But I don't think the reasons for, you know, letting go, as you put it, was because they are NDC members. Reasons were given. Are you saying all of the reasons given by the reasons were not satisfactory?
If the reasons were legitimate, you should have let them go through the full rigors of the trial and let the court decide. If indeed he was convinced, but the AG is not a judge. Yes, of course, he's a lawyer, he can evaluate the facts and take a certain view. But the AG sometimes takes a view, goes to court and fails. That tells you that the AG's view is not gospel. And so if you were so convinced they were innocent, you should have held their feet to the fire of a trial, you know, and let us see. And so in my view, the very day he took that decision and made that move, he started failing. He started failing from that day.
Oral.
Yes, he started failing on oral because oral forms part of the NDC's government's reset agenda. True or false?
True.
Good. It's a subset of it. Now, in the history of this country, if you are going to reset the fight against corruption, then it should be a more comprehensive fight dealing with NDC or an MPP and all others so that there's proper deterrence, right? Because in the history of this country, the only time you have seen politicians pursued predominantly or significantly, right, is when their government is not in power. And so if you're going to reset the system, then you're going to create a system that will deal with members of your own party whilst you are in power, as well as members of the opposition. That way, nobody can complain. That way, you now have the moral authority, right? For instance, I heard the AG say that somebody has proposed to settle in the national service scandal.
Plea bargaining.
Plea bargaining, and has proposed 22 million cedis, but he has rejected it. What is 22 million cedis of 38 million in terms of percentage? The AG in the Unibank matter accepted Dr. Baffour's 60%. And so why would you not also accept this? So the very moment you accepted Dr. Baffour's 60%, now your back is to the wall. The question will be, what is the yardstick that is being used in your plea bargaining?
But maybe the level of complicity, and to be fair, no two cases are the same, right? So the crimes committed in the Baffour case may not be on the same scale as the national service case.
So let's look at the charges that are preferred against them. You are likely to find causing financial loss to the state in there. Conspiracy to cause financial loss to the state, and so on. So there are financial losses to the state. It doesn't matter the process leading to the loss. What matters is the loss, right? What are the usefulness or utility of prosecution? To deter others from committing the same offense, right? And to punish. And so what is the AG's objective in the case of Dr. Baffour? And what is the AG's objective in the national service? Is it to deter others from stealing public funds or causing financial loss to the state? Is it to punish? The AG should let us know that in one breath, I decided to deter. I decided to punish. In another breath, I decided to, settle and let the person go and then take money as deterrence. So when we have that understanding, it helps. But in the absence of that understanding, the issue will be, why do you let one go and then decide to pursue the other? Then it comes across as what you are pursuing is just your opponent. And in that case, it's just a matter of you wanting to settle scores.
What do you have to say to, section of the public that feel that at least we've seen a government that is committed to retrieving the public funds? And of course, you don't expect that all of these proceedings or cases, will be settled in a year. So maybe we should give government some credit for the work it's done in actually setting up a committee and also pursuing the matter. I mean, we had the AG on quite a number of occasions, government accountability series, for example, give updates on all the cases, pending at the courts.
I wouldn't want the AG to only talk. I would want the AG to get results. If you hold government accountability series, and then when it comes to discovery of documents in court, you are found wanting, then clearly the question will be, on what basis did you do the government accountability series? Those documents, why can't you make them available freely? I mean, these are very legitimate questions, right? But more importantly, like I said, I wouldn't want a situation where government fights opponents or pursues opponents only. Government should be able to pursue people within. And so we need to do a proper corruption risk assessment of our state, which we haven't done. And because we have not done a proper corruption risk assessment of public office, what is happening is that we tend to set up institutions that are ad hoc with the hope that they will fight corruption. But most of those institutions, right, tend to be more, after the fact institutions. We need to reform. I've said, for instance, that one of the biggest nets to sieve through the acts of public officers to make sure there's no corruption is Parliament. We should start from our budgets. I am of the view that we should look at reforming our budgets from being program-based to activity-based, so that it can easily be assessed comparing to what pertains or prevails on the market, for us to know whether what is being proposed as the budget estimate for the year is reasonable or not. When it is program-based, it's very difficult to investigate the granular content of it. I'm also of the view that, particularly in respect of the state-owned agencies, the Minister for Finance is doing a good job with bringing the value for money audit law to Parliament, right? I think that is good. But I think we should go beyond it. For instance, to have visibility over the budget of state-owned agencies. The Minister of Finance needs visibility of it to see even what they are proposing to acquire in the course of the year, whether it's necessary or it's a means by which somebody wants to make money. Because look, check all state-owned agencies. What you find there are software acquisitions, very expensive software acquisitions in recent times, you see, and other procurement that really, might not be necessary, but very expensive. I'm sure if we were to do that, I doubt if we'll go back to the IMF, because if you check the expenses of the budget of the state-owned agencies, stroke budget expenses, you get to know that, look, a lot of money is going down the drain. And so we need serious reforms. We shouldn't wait for the horse to bolt, because mostly when the horse bolts,
it's difficult to catch up. Interesting.
Very difficult. And so we should rather put in place preventive mechanisms instead of post-event investigations and prosecutions.
Or reactive.
And then we should also consider serious training for white-collar crime investigations and prosecution.
Is that not why, and moving on to other issues, I think your point is well made, but, seguing into the OSP, will you say white-collar criminal enterprises? Is that not why your government, for example, brought about the Office of the Special Prosecutor to look into those things? But it may seem that, your side have now joined some section of the public in vilifying the office.
It's not our side necessarily.
But we've had members of parliament,
yes,
including your very good self.
Yes. It's a personal position. And it's a personal principle position. I'll explain to you. Remember not long ago in this discussion, I said we need a corruption risk assessment of public offices to firstly identify where the corruption is taking place. And so in crafting the law, right, which place you are dealing with. We have not done that. And so you set up the OSP to fight corruption and corruption-related offenses by public office holders, politically exposed persons, because you've only identified that politically exposed persons or public office holders are not being prosecuted because they form part of the ruling government and the Attorney General is part, and so he's not able to do any independent prosecution or investigation. So you need an independent person. The question will be, what is the quantum of such offenses taking place and where are they taking place? You have not done that. And so in passing the OSP Act, you've said, oh, I need an OSP who will prosecute corruption and corruption-related offenses. There is indeed no scope to his work. And so you realize that even in assessing it, right, he can tell you that I've done A, B, C, D, I've done this, I've done this. Meanwhile, if you look at our primary corruption issues on the ground, which is infractions uncovered mostly by the Auditor General, you realize that there's nobody paying attention. But in the course of the year, that is where the issue really is.
Yeah, but you can't also say because of that would neglect other forms of, white-collar crimes like we've seen, or accusations so widely publicized in the media.
So if you are looking at just accusations widely published in the media,
I mean, some of them with facts supported.
Yes, I'm coming. And then whistleblowing, then the office will be redundant because there will be less work for the office, right? But if you look at, this is the problem we have, year in, year out. The Auditor General's report, we watch it on TV, Public Accounts Committee. These are the revelations that come up. After the revelations have been shown on TV, nothing is happening. All these persons are public office holders, politically exposed persons, right? And business people associated to them, right? Year in, year out, for the last 20 years or more, nothing is happening. And so if you are setting up an office because the Auditor General reports so much losses, 400 and something million or 40 billion losses every year because of these issues, then you know that this office is focusing here to give you value for money and not an additional office that becomes a burden on the national purse without producing results. And that is what we have seen. And so if you are measuring the work of the OSP now, I can tell you, there's nothing. I'm looking here, I'm looking there. But if it is more focused, more purposeful, then you know what you are chasing.
Interesting. Let's just end with some brief thoughts, right? Last year was a big year in terms of, the government and the role, it played in the removal of the Chief Justice, generated significant public interest. Yourself, on many times you spoke on it, your party also did. What's the minority's position? I know, you've spoken a lot, even from your minority leader, but has it changed? Is there anything you are still going to push for with regards to the pendency of the case at the ECOWAS court and in other places?
At this level, the case has been prosecuted by the Chief Justice herself. And so she would have the right to say whether she's prosecuting it or not. On our side, it's a policy decision. A policy decision which we are, when given the opportunity, right? And indeed, there's some proposal to amend that part of the Constitution, Article 146, not to make it easier for a future removal in the manner which we've seen. And so we would make it stronger and better given the opportunity so that what has happened doesn't happen again in the interest of judicial independence, which would be grounded on security of tenure. And so I think that is what we are going to do.
Interesting. Finally, before I let go of you, and thank you so much for your time, I've seen you argue, and this is just going back to a conversation we started early on, during this interview. I've seen you argue for a legal framework on presidential continuity rather than the entrenched provisions being removed. What were you seeking to address with that?
No president will ever finish whatever he started. Otherwise, you may have to end up also passing a law that, let's say, the 4th year, you should begin to round up all that you have started. And so because it is not like that, and we expect the president to work even on the last day of office, we should rather focus on making sure that whatever the president fails to complete, whoever takes over should complete it. Because it is not the president's personal property. It is the property of the state. It's the property of the... I'll give you an example. Look, in my constituency,
Manhyia
South, there's the Crowflow market. The Crowflow market was started by President Kufuor. Till date, it hasn't been completed, right? After over 18 years, assuming it was a loan that was acquired to pay. The previous president, it's not the previous government's personal funds. It will also not be the subsequent government's personal funds. It will be our taxes, right? And so it should be in our interest that the project is completed. And so we should rather pass a law to make sure that there's continuity, so that you don't come to office and say, because President Jude started this, President Bernard has taken over, President Bernard will not finish it. At the end of the day, if it is a loan, it is the state funds. Are we happy paying for things that we are not benefiting from? That is what our governments and these successive governments and politicians have been subjecting us to, which is not fair to the people of Ghana, being the taxpayers.
Interesting. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, man.
And Happy New Year, Honorable.
Happy New Year to you too.
So that's all time allows for our interview with Member of Parliament for Manhyia South, Honorable Agyei Baffour Awuah. We're talking wide range of issues: Constitutional Review Committee, the work of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, also touching on other issues involving Parliament's role in the fight against corruption, of course, ending with the Chief Justice and other interesting issues he raised around a legal framework needed for presidential continuity. Thank you for watching.